Well, we are back at the castle. The view never ceases to amaze. Today, we're going to try to pull our 4-foot dimension from our wall out to the furthest point that takes us to find out where we've got to add on to our floor joist and where we need to cut off. I'm pretty confident this over in here is all going to get cut off. Most of this will probably get cut off, and then we'll probably have to start adding right back in there, and also adding, most likely, that's a pretty short section there, right around in this area here. So let's start pulling some dimensions, seeing where we can cut and where we need to add. Now we got to determine where we get our full 4 feet and where we don't. Looks like we're about 4 inches shy there. 3 inches shy there. We can get us a good mark here. And it appears as though we can get us a good mark here. Yep, right out there on the edge. And then we got to come around this corner, scoot you guys back a little bit here. See if our ladder sets nicely for us. Doesn't look like it. There we go. Hopefully I don't have to take that board off, but knowing my luck, that's where it's going to end up, is right on that board. Nope, we're going to be shy of the board. We'll be right here. Gonna cut quite a bit off over here. Probably should have moved that board first, but I didn't. And then we'll progress all the way around the porch. Get her chalked and get her cut. As you guys can see, I got good help again today. I did not tell my father that I was going to be here, but he found out through the grapevine and he showed up. So, always a good thing. You guys can kind of see how this is shaping up here. I was short right over there, but I did get my 4 feet here. There is a floor joist right below it, so I'll be able to use that joist, and then I kind of lose it just a little bit, but it runs right off the end of this joist that's underneath of me. And somewhere out in there is going to be an intersection point, and I have a good joist here. You can see how that chalk line runs over, intersects that chalk line runs over again, intersects that chalk line, runs out here to the end, and I lose it. I'm probably 18 inches short here. But then as I come to this side, and again, I don't have this framed in yet, but if we throw a tape measure on this, you can see here, we'll just use the face of the door for now. Again, this is not for cutting it off on this side, but you can see we're basically out to 40, so we're going to be 8 inches short basically in this entire section here. know that downspout's not going to stay there once the new roof is on and this is framed in. We'll shorten it up, run it across that roof, and then that new roof will also have guttering on it. So that's what we've got right now that we can cut off. And when I say cut off, we are literally going to cut it right there on that chalk line and throw our soffit board out there on that outside edge. And over here, we're going to add to our floor joist and extend it out to where that blue line continues on over there in the no man's land. And if we come off of this backside, you guys can see this dimension here. Again, this is not dead set because I've got to do a little bit of work to this wall before I can actually frame the roof. But you can see there, running out square, we're just a few inches short, and all of these joists in here are good. So I'm going to be able to just splice right off the side of those. Most of them, as you can see, will go on the inside here. In case you're new to the channel and you don't know how all this is coming together, we come in here to the inside. That's the side of the building we were just on. Most of these joists are doubled up. One is treated, one is not. I'm not as concerned about the non-treated because all of this is going to be sealed and under roof and watertight. When I put in my new non-treated board, since it is setting on concrete, I will put a vapor barrier, probably just slip tar paper underneath of them or something, so that new wood doesn't set on anything that's going to build moisture between it and the concrete. All these existing joists, I know there's some there that aren't treated and I'm not going to be able to get a vapor barrier under them. But I do plan on spraying closed cell foam inside of these cavities to insulate the floor to mitigate any sweat that concrete's going to create because of the underneath airflow. And again, every compartment in this entire castle will be conditioned. So the sweat will be mitigated. We will remove as much humidity as we can. Basically, at this point, the way it's looking is everything's going to have its own mini split. One unit sitting on the ground, running lines up to each level so that the mini split can handle each level and mitigate humidity, etc. So if you can envision that going all the way out to the outside of that deck, I mean, I guess you don't have to envision it. Those joists run all the way through and out there. So there's not much of a cantilever, honestly. The pressure of the wall is definitely a significant distance away from the end of these. And then you've got just a few feet, again, 4 at the most out there that we'll have. And this concrete pad goes further. So got some scabbing to do, if you will. That's what I like to call it, scabbing. I don't think it's going to hurt anything at all. The only areas that I've got to pay a little bit more attention to is the intersection points. A prime example of that is right here. That intersection point will have to be cut at 2 different angles since there are 2 joists coming out. I'll cut this one this way, cut that one that way. So when this board comes across and this board comes across, they come to a point right there, just like you see. Obviously take that side of the chalk line off. It comes to a point. That's where my soffit boards will meet each other and be supported by this joist. You come over here and we're close with this joist. So this is where this building not being framed perfectly and the floor system not being framed for a true octagon, even though it is an octagon, I may have to fudge this one just a little bit, kick this angle out a little bit further, which realistically makes the top of the roof point to the bottom of the roof point different than on that side. However, we're not talking about a whole lot there, and I may end up sucking that one in and then running this one at that point. Not for sure how all that's going to work out yet, but this is where remodeling, you just kind of got to run with it. Now, if I can cut these double joists off and splice in a joist that will get me to that center point, I will do that. But again, I know for all you guys who don't like heights, that's probably pretty scary to you, but We are over 40 feet on this side of the castle here, and we're basically, I've been saying 40 feet the whole time, but I measured it today, and essentially off of this back side we are 30 feet. The man lift is an AJ 450, so it's capable of going up to 45 feet. I am not 100% certain I'm going to be able to reach this side, but that kind of explains to you guys the thought process here of trimming all this off so I can get my soffit board on there. Once I get my soffit board on there, I can start framing in the actual top of the truss, if you will, the rafters, and then we will stick frame all this. We'll put verticals in there to make it more like an actual truss. But let's get to cutting some wood. Well, there you have it. There's our straight line to our intersection point, our straight line to our intersection point, our straight line to our intersection point. And then as we come over here, we run, our straight line runs short over here, but there's our straight line on the top side. This is going to allow me to come in from the bottom side, mark a square line straight down the floor joists that are sticking out, remove those bottom European funky whatevers, and basically I will take a saw and I will cut that off and just let all that fall down. I may end up having to remove more of those boards there, but right now that gets me my line of reference, and I have to confirm that the man lift will even reach this bottom side here. I'm not for sure that it truly will, but this gives you guys a much better visual as to how that is all going to line up. And those points also gives me my point of reference where my hip will actually tie in. And as mentioned earlier, I'm not that concerned about the soffit board that's going to be mounted once those joists are cut off. I'm not that concerned about this being the intersection point because it's just barely past the joist. It's going to be nailed to the joist here, and then this board here will be nailed to those joists. So that is only about a foot that is going to be cantilevered, if you will, and that board will run full length and be nailed to every joist. So I'm not concerned about it ending up right there. The only thing that may make interesting is finishing the bottom side of this roof. I am going to close it off all the way over to the castle with soffit or something to ensure that we don't just have a bunch of cavities that moisture can blow up in. So that gets the deck trimmed. Now we have to start clipping off those floor joists and make sure that that stuff is out of the way, and we can actually start putting on our soffit boards over in this area where that soffit board runs out again to that intersection point. But I run short right there off the end where you see that angle kicking back right there. I'll be able to put that soffit board on, nail it to 1, 2, 3 joists, let it run long, and get my measurements so that I can put the extensions on this floor. No, that one's long enough. This floor joist, and that floor joist, and then that board will actually give my intersection point to everything I need to add on over here again, as this is not a full 4 foot either. Back there it gets really close, so I'm going to just be scabbing onto these joists all through here. And then back there I think I might be able to use again 1 or 2 joists to get that long soffit board on there to attach it to this intersection point, and then weasel my boards up underneath to scab it onto the floor joists that are too short. hopefully that gives you guys the explanations you've been looking for. But we're going to see if we can get this man lift up on the front side. I don't know if I'm going to put any roofing on this back side yet. I know I have some significant water issues that still get into the castle here, but my mind is wandering about what may happen back in here and to that concrete area there. Scratching my head, wondering if there's been a lot of comments about spiral staircases. It is not going to be a spiral staircase. However, I do want to expand the floor space in this room behind us. I'm just not for sure budget-wise how that works in and or how I can achieve it. So I'm going to go to the drawing board. You guys will be involved with that and see if I can come up with something that allows me to, well, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. Anyway, not for sure I'm going to do any roofing on this wall yet. This wall right here. You just have to stay tuned to see what may or may not happen with that wall. All right, as you can tell, we moved the man lift around a little bit. I had to determine how far I can get that way on this side of the porch. You guys can see the I-beam sticking out up there. I can make it to that I-beam, but I can't make it any further. So at least I know I can make it halfway on the right-hand side when I go to put the skirt boards on. And then over here, I have confirmed that I for sure can make it to the downspout. I know I can reach there. I did not drive down to the bottom side. I am basically 100% confident I'm not going to be able to do anything here, as the machine, when it sets unlevel, for you who know man lifts, you know that it doesn't let you do anything when you're setting unlevel. So I'm pretty confident I'm not going to be able to do anything on this hillside unless I chalk it up in some way, shape, or form. But I do believe I can sneak right in here, right against the castle, and that should allow me to get up there. I'm not 100% confident. I measured the backside, so basically from the flat up on top that the joist sets on, that concrete pad that all of you have seen, that is 30 feet to where the man lift is setting now. I know that this thing is supposed to reach 45 feet, and I don't think that that is 10 feet of elevation change, but it's going to be pretty close. So let's assume it is 10 feet. 30 plus 10 is 40, right? Yep, 30 plus 10 is 40. I still have 5 foot straight up. My concern is when I'm sitting here and I'm at 40 feet, maybe 42 feet, how far am I going to be able to go back that way? Because I still have to put a skirt board on there to connect. You guys can see where I cut it there. It's a real straight line right there, and then you can see the gap, obviously, where the other straight line is. I've got to connect that straight line on further, extend these joists out, and put another board this way to come to that intersection point somewhere over in there. Not 100% confident where that's going to end up yet, but I do know I got to work a significant amount here, and from the back I can only reach basically to the downspout. So I've got to determine, and it's getting late in the day, I don't think I'm going to drive the lift down here today to determine that. So I think to finish the video out, we're going to take some dimensions for the master bath that we're going to add on to the back side of the castle. I don't know how big it's going to be yet. The wife wants to add on all the way over to that other corner, but when we purchased this place, that's not what was in my head, so I didn't budget for that. Long term, I'm not saying no. I think it's a great idea to be able to keep the original castle as original as possible, add on to this backside. She's wanting to add on so you can have a big kitchen, a big dining area, and all that's great. It's just not in the cards for the beginning renovation. Long-term renovation, I don't see a problem with that at all. Make this it's going to be livable. It's going to be a great space. It's going to have all the amenities of modern technology. It's just not going to have a really large dining area like you would see in most homes today. But again, you know, we've got hopes as to what this property is going to turn into long term, but it's not going to be lived in 100% of the time at this point. So we do know off of this backside, right inside of this, if you guys haven't seen the tour of the castle, there is a video where we did an entire tour of the basement, the bottom of the tower, the great room, and every single floor within this castle. Go back on the channel and find that video so you can see the actual tour and what it consists of today. But this is a vent for the bathroom, if you will. It is nothing but a toilet. We're going to remove that toilet, cut a hole in the castle to put in a door, and then we're going to add out here so that we can put a master bath right here in basically where we are standing right now. I don't know what those dimensions are going to be. I know what I factored them on originally, and that was 20 feet by 20 feet, 20 feet this way and 20 feet this way. But I've got to pay close attention to how this tower slopes in all the way to the top, and I also have to pay attention to this side. And long term, this roof down here isn't going to impact any of that, but if we were to add on the rest of this, that roof line will have to be bumped up so we can tie that roof, which is currently going to have a short roof here. I'm going to put limestone on all of this block, build a knee wall, put a short roof on this backside to mitigate any water issues we have there. But none of this is going to have an addition. So it's going to look like this instead of that when it's done, with a roof that covers everything up. But if we do perform this addition long term down the road, I can't perform this 20 by 20 addition. Again, we're going to take dimensions here in just a second because I'm not confident on that. But let's assume it's 20 by 20. That roof line is going to have to end up there if we do this addition. So at minimum, this 20 by 20 has to get to that level so that long term those two roofs can tie together. Yeah, there's blows my mind. It's kind of you can't plan all of these additions until you start the work that I did up there, because you never really, I don't know what's going to happen to all of this before I do this. So I had to get started up there. I figured out that I can mitigate my water problems inside the castle with the roof that I'm currently working on getting constructed and the walls that I constructed. So now I got to figure out to do this addition and ensure the long-term goals are capable. How does all this have to lay out? So let's pull some dimensions. You know, I may honestly just end up doing a master bath that is from this wall to that wall, and bring that straight down, let the castle on the left stick out a little bit, and line it up with that top. So long term, if this is a straight line and this is a straight line, I can expand that out and come over here at this 20-foot out mark. I'm confident in this dimension, but that 20-foot out mark, I'm building 2 walls against 3 walls of master bathroom. And again, we're gonna measure that out, and there'll probably be a separate video of the layout of the master bath, and it's probably not going to be here's where the shower is going to go, etc., etc. But I'll have dimensions. I'll draw it out and how it's going to attach to the castle. That will be an ICF addition. I'm not going to do an addition any other way. I want to add efficiency, and I want to make a modern, as strong of a structure as I can make. So I do know this addition is going to be ICF. Let's go grab the tape measure and see what this thing pulls out to be. So as stated before, from me, from this wall to through you guys, I know that's going to be 20 feet. I'm confident of that dimension. That's what I want it to be. That's what the left-hand side addition would need to be to fit everything for our long-term goals. Again, that addition is not going to happen now. But what I don't know is how wide this addition is going to be. I'm thinking I need to keep it straight in line with that top outside corner that I mentioned just a minute ago, and then also in line with that top outside corner up there by what I call the door of death. You guys have seen it before, but we're talking about that door right there, in line with this edge and in line with this edge. I believe is going to be the best path and the best potential for success. And then to get you a different view, you can see how much elevation we have here. I'm going to throw a tape measure on that to see what that elevation is, because that roof will actually kick down, and long term I can tear that off and make it less steep to run the 20 feet out. But for now it's going to be a pretty steep roof with a gutter that takes everything one way or the other. But I want to make sure that this long term will tie into this immediate, if you will. And this is just about the height of the lid you sit on a toilet. I can take it off. But you can see the lid in there. So realistically, the lid height is, we're going to pull off of this circle, basically. We know for a fact we are going to have to bring our floor. You guys can see I'm bumping the ground down there. We're going to have to bring our floor up to at least probably close to 4 feet. Maybe not quite 4 feet. Let's call it 3 feet. So we know we're going to have 3 feet of elevation change before we have a floor system in here, because you're going to walk through that area. Again, that toilet's going bye-bye. You can see the doorway. I'm going to cut a new doorway in the castle, and you're going to come straight across that floor into the same level. Pretty confident I don't want to step down. So we've got to come up 3 feet, have a floor system, and an ICF is 18 inches. So 9 feet works out really good. 10.5 feet works out. And basically, I'll have a 9-foot tall wall plus our 3 feet. So 12 feet total of wall, and then a roof that ties into the castle there to cap off this master bath. Let's see. And again, I got to guess at these things. Obviously I can't pull up there very well, and I really don't want to hang out the door of death. So we're gonna kind of draw us a straight line here. We're gonna pull us a dimension over and see how wide this thing is. And now that I'm looking at it, it actually looks like I might be better off. These are pretty in line with that outside wall. I think I'm just gonna pull right off the edge of this and go to that outside corner and line it up. And let's just see what we've got. That's going to be within an inch or two. So I'm going to overshoot it a little bit. It's more like 13 feet. We're going to call it 14 feet for safe measure, to ensure that it's never a bad thing to overestimate, right? It's always a bad thing to underestimate. So basically this addition here is going to be 14 feet wide by 20 feet long. It'll be 3 walls. It'll tie in right here. We'll drill some rebar into the limestone rock. We'll epoxy those in place with the proper rebar to limestone and or concrete epoxy. We'll let them run long. We'll put them into the core of our ICF wall. The ICF wall will run out here 20 feet. I've got a mark on the ground right here. So this is 20 feet to the castle. That wall will come out 20 feet, turn, come 14 feet over, and turn and go back to the castle. That's going to be the master bath addition that we will perform. Obviously, we've got to get that deck done first, but I need to start laying out and figuring out the material needs so that I can get those materials on order. Because I believe after we get that thing watertight, before I start finishing anything and doing finished product, I may go ahead and do this addition to ensure that when we start finishing things and we're bringing drywall in or any type of finished material, we're bringing that in for multiple floors instead of one floor at a time. And we can stage that material in the great room, and we're still going to work from the top down. I'm not going to change that process. I'm just going to work from the top down to ensure that, here's the way I look at it. If I start at the top and get it watertight, that's step number one. If I finish from the top down, the mess that I constantly make that ends up on the floor below me, because it's inevitable. You're going to track the stuff around. You're going to have to clean up after yourself. So if I'm bringing that mess down with me and I am taking off the product that's there now, flooring, for example, I'm not tracking across a brand new floor. And I'm probably going to use the same floor everywhere. So if I start at the top and work my way down, everything below me, I'm going to deconstruct it, clean it, and then reconstruct it. So I'm not constantly making a new mess that I have to clean up. So that's my theory. That's my thought process. That's what I'm going to go with because, hey, guess what? I'm the guy doing the work. So 14 by 20. I'm going to go to the drawing board and draw that out. And again, that'll be a separate video. But I do want you guys to kind of understand how that's going to tie in, and this being the flat side of the tower instead of the round side of the tower, etc., etc. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and as always, like, comment, subscribe.